What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. I'm BobbyFi back here with my man, Eric Sheets Haber. We are going to be doing an NFL Showdown slate breakdown for tonight's Bears and Cowboys game. It is not the prettiest game in the world, but there is some opportunity to be maybe a little bit different, make some money. And there's one thing Big T has taught us. You can certainly make a lot of money on Showdown slates if you get a little bit creative. And I've done pretty well at Showdown slates myself, and I think that we've got a little opportunity to be creative here. Sheets, why don't you give us your initial thoughts about some initial showdown thoughts, and get into tonight's slate.
Yeah, so I view showdown slates as the opportunity to use your portfolio management skills to tell the story that you want to tell. For example, like you have a game, any game, let's say it's this Chicago game. Let's say that you come up with a thesis of the way the game is going to go. Let it be, the Chicago passing game. There are only so many combinations that you can come up with a 35 person player pool. But what you have to be able to do is create your lineup builds to tell the story that you want to tell. So if you come up with the idea that, it's going to be have a passing game from the Chicago side, you want to make sure that you play a certain number of receivers and pair them with Trubisky and bring them back with a certain player or a certain number of players from Dallas. Whatever your approach is, you want to make sure that you tell that story somewhat consistently. If you want to differentiate, which you can do in showdown slates, as Big T and other people have done, I think the best way to do that is not to differentiate from your script so much. So you don't want to mix and match your game scripts within the same lineup. I think the better way to differentiate is keep your script pure, your game script pure, but maybe differentiate the actual players. So if you're going to play, say, two guys from the Bears side as far as a wide receiver go, you want to differentiate which receiver you play, not necessarily just go off the board with a different type of script.
Yeah, I totally agree. What are your thinking specifically for tonight?
So this is the way I'm approaching tonight. So what you'll see on your screen is I actually entered 150 lineups for the first time ever in any contest. Now I entered 150 lineups. I think it's the 50 cent, right? It's the 50 cent showdown, and I did so because I want to do more of this to kind of test my ability to portfolio manage correctly in this type of scenario. So I am going to do some more of this. This was my concept going into this slate. I thought that it would be a good Trubisky spot as far as for him to be able to do well in the passing game. So what I did was I had Javon Wims and Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller as my captains. What I did was I scripted so that one of those three were going to be in my captain. And then what I did was I locked in Trubisky in all these lineups, which makes sense to pair him with those three guys. And then what I did was I did another rule where I used one of the remaining two receivers in my build. I mean, I didn't think it was appropriate for me I thought it was asking a little too much for me to have Trubisky with three receivers. I mean, to have him complete touchdown pass to exactly three receivers, I think was asking for it. So what I was willing to do is gamble on the fact that maybe he'd complete two to one guy and one to another, as though I didn't know which one that was going to be. So that's the original way I started my script. Is I said, okay, I'm going to lock Trubisky into the flex, and in the captain, I'm going to do. I assigned 33%, but I made a rule that one of those three, Wims, Miller, and Robinson, would be those three. Now I could adjust that for ownership, but that's the original way that I started my build.
Yeah, I like it. I have an interesting counter to this. I think the Cowboys' defense is extremely interesting tonight as a play. I, as you know, don't trust Trubisky, but I also don't trust the Cowboys, and I also am on the passing game a little bit as well. But I think you can bet on the Cowboys' defense forcing some turnovers, making some things happen. I personally find that Allen Robinson, I'm not going to play a ton of lineups tonight. I'm not going to do the 150 thing personally. But I do. I think Allen Robinson is going to be the captain for me for the most part. He has the largest market share of targets of anybody on these teams. He is the third in all of football. It's a spot where I expect them to actually have a hard time keeping up, and I think they're going to have to target him. And Trubisky's going to rely on the guy he relies on the most. So I think that you're going to see a lot from Robinson. He's the guy I'm going with. I think both quarterbacks are very logical in the captain spot. I think it's really hard. You have little of Dak, which I think is the big fade you're going with. The Cowboys receivers have the most fantasy points of any receivers in the NFL. The passing game for the Cowboys has been fire all year long. I just don't. I mean, I actually like the matchups. I think the Bears are better defensively than people give them, or better defensively than the Cowboys are. So I'm actually sort of like in between. But I think that one thing I'm definitely going to do in at least some big buy-in lineups is play the Cowboys defense.
Well, one thing I will tell you, and we talk about this whenever we talk about the NFL, is, given what I just said, that I was locking in Trubisky and the Bears passing game, there's certainly nothing wrong with taking Cowboys D in those same bills. As we discussed before, there's certainly nothing, especially in Showdown, there's certainly ways to win where you play the opposing defense against the same quarterback and receiver core that you're trying to play. So I actually have in this build, I still have 20%, and I didn't build it this way. This is the way the optimizer spit it out. Actually, was I still got 20% of the Cowboys defense, which I think is totally fine.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm going to play the Cowboys defense in a couple of spots tonight. If there's a team I would do it against, it would be Chicago and a guy like Trubisky in Chicago this time of year. So I actually I'm going to do that in some of the $10 or whatever. But obviously, it's not like the optimum play. I think mostly for me, I really do like Allen Robinson tonight. I think that Miller and Weems are good plays, but they're going to be, very popular because their prices. So will Robinson. And Weems is just so cheap, it's hard not to play him. But I think it gets into an interesting conversation. Like, this is what I keep running into, because I think you can go down and try and take a shot at somebody at the low end, like a Cordarrelle Patterson or a Tavon Austin. Look, one big play from him doesn't need to be a touchdown. Is plenty for these $400 price and the $1,200 price. But is that something we need to do? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing that I did, and I took this out, but I actually went through every guy that had a projection that was not like zero, that I've seen kind of do something, that any kind of upside at all. And I put him in for a minimum of 5% in every line of all my lineups. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I actually don't have a problem with that at all. As a matter of fact, even in this build, this is after I took out that requirement, I still ended up with like a few lineups with Cordarrelle Patterson in there. I mean, I especially think on the Dallas side that there's but actually on both sides, that there are ways that other dudes can kind of, I don't want to say luck into in the wrong way, but variance their way into scores here. And so, yeah, I have absolutely no problem with that at all. The one thing I wanted to ask you, given the way I was built, again, like, forget my build. That's just my script. That's the way I think it's going to go. Who the hell am I? I mean, I could go with a totally different script, but you have to just make sure that it's pure. So if I were going to use, say, 3 receivers, right? One of them in the captain, or actually 2 of them. One of them in the captain from the Bears and the other one in the flex along with Trubisky. I mean, what I did was, as far as running it back goes, I made sure to run it back with at least one of Elliott, Cooper, even Gallup, just at least somebody, just so it doesn't spit out like ridiculous line. I don't say ridiculous, but lineups without a single Dallas run back except for like the kicker in the defense or something like that, So I did end up with some, with some Gallup, some Witten, I guess. I mean, I just basically some of everybody. And I guess, the stand I'm taking in this build is going to be the Bears passing game. And, this way you could differentiate and kind of screw around a little bit with the bring back. Let me ask you a question. One of the other rules that I put into my script, and you tell me your thoughts on this, and I just have to believe that if you're going to differentiate, this is a good way to do it. I will put in my salary cap a max of 49.3. Okay. Now, there's no reason for 49.3 as opposed to 48.9. You could actually argue for 48.9, but I think that some people are going to do 48.9. So I'll make it 49.3. You know what I mean? To get that little 49.1, 49.2. And I think when you're trying to beat 100,000 people, that even doing a little tweak like that to intentionally leave money on the table has to, in some sense, give you a little bit more differentiation.
Absolutely it does, but I also could argue that if you play a lineup, I mean, there's lineups that I do want all the savings I can because I want to play the 4 big guys and I can get a low-owned cheap guy who, if he scores a touchdown, So I don't know. I probably it would depend on the slate for me, but I think on this slate you definitely could do that. And it's all you're looking for is differentiation, realistically. You know what I mean? That's the name of the game here. So I actually think it's a really smart thing to do. And I agree with even your points about the 48-9 or somebody just doing 49 even. But 49-3 is like a funny number people probably don't pick. Maybe even you could even argue on some sites you could even go down like 2,000 less than the overall price. But anyway, yeah, I do like that to get some differentiation, and I just would encourage you to make sure you can do your max subs later today if you hear about any news or if we think anybody's gonna get more runs.
Well, obviously, the good thing about this is when not to tout a site or whatever, but they're all like this. Is I could swap out this entire build really, really easily. Maybe one day for like more of the beginner players, we could go over how to do that.
Yeah.
But and that's what I do all the time. Like I guarantee you, this is 100% not what I'm playing. Okay, but because I am going to make some changes, I'm going to look at more. I'm going to listen to other people and see what else comes out there. Maybe see the late inactives. But the thing is, one of the good things about playing the 150 or playing a big slate like playing a lot of lineups is, again, if you're scripting, as long as your groups stay pure, whatever, you don't want too many of whatever. That if anything changes, you can just rerun the whole thing, swap this out and in, and be cool, And the good thing is, there's no one particular lineup here that I'm going to remember I'm missing. You know what I mean? Like if it wins, I'm like, oh my god, I had that in my first build. So I don't roll that way anyway. But so I do promise you that the ones that have the most equity are going to be the ones that are, I'm telling you, leaving exactly 800 on the table, right?
Yeah.
Like not the ones that are leaving the 1,000, because everybody's going to go the 49,000, but the 49.2. And again, you think I'm being facetious or whatever, but when you're looking for, have you ever played these showdown slates and you see the decimal points that separate, 8th from 800th? You know what I mean? This is the beauty and the curse of showdown slates. Any little tiny edge, okay, is going to be worth something, worth far more than a 1% difference in projection. You know what I mean? So. Or full lineup projection. So for me, I am totally willing to. I don't want to say ignore projections. You don't want to do that. But look, I can make a differentiating lineup playing 3 quarterbacks. I promise you. But I don't think that's going to win, right? So you could differentiate a little bit and still be pure and not go completely off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I always try and encourage people the same thing. Everybody I've ever coached in my life. I really think you put that really well. But I think that I always tell people, make sure you just do something weird. Always look for backup running backs on showdown slates. Always look for secondary tight ends. Always look for kickers and defenses, and consider on Thursday games often trying to make those kickers and defenses and put them in the captain's spot. And a night like tonight.
I had a question for you before you go. So, like a guy like Pollard, right?
Yeah.
Is he going to be one of those just non-sneaky guys that everybody plays though?
I think I think that they'll have some ownership. I'm just going to see how much. I can't even remember his thing. Yeah, but I actually don't think that many people are going to play him. Okay. But he'll have a tiny bit of ownership. But I think it's kind of interesting. It's such an important game for the Cowboys. Everybody's going to play Zeke, so I don't see them playing them together. I think he'll have a little bit of ownership, nowhere near where it could be. But that's true about a bunch of these guys. If Cordarrelle Patterson gets in the end zone one time, you're going to, be crushing. Like you don't even need to be
on the opening kickoff of the game.
Exactly, and then maybe you play Cordarrelle Patterson and the Bears defense with the Cowboys defense, and then you pay up at all the other spots. Anything like that. Just really, or actually that's probably too much, and leave it on the table. Get creative. Do something unusual. If you want to win tournaments, there's a reason why Big T wins at these things. There's a reason why I do well on small slates as well as large slates, but I do well at small slates a lot of times because we're contrarian thinkers, and I know Sheets can be this way as well. So we are going to be crushing these slates. For the most part, overall, I really think we'll do well on these smaller showdown slates. And I haven't started playing until recently, but they have been fruitful, and I want to thank Big T for getting me on them. And I'm excited about these showdown slates and the future of DFS showdowns, which I did not think I'd be saying 2 years ago.
Hey, I have a question. Again, not to go back to overall, but what are your views as far as correlation goes with kickers and defenses and things like that? Like, I'm trying to figure this out because you hear so many different opinions. Obviously, wide receivers with quarterbacks make sense, and defenses with running backs to some degree make sense. But when it comes to kickers, I hear so many different opinions on how these guys correlate or don't correlate. Like, what in your opinion, again, you don't play that many of these either, but like, how would you approach like kickers with respect to playing Showdown?
Well, I think it actually depends on the circumstances, the kind of teams they are too. Like, so, on a night like tonight, pretty much, I mean, like, it depends on if it's a team that's more daring or whatever. I don't think there's any real problem with worrying about too much over correlation on large field GPP Showdown slates, but in small field GPP slates, I think that's where you'd probably want to correlate it more. And I think what you'd want is, I think you're having your kicker with your defense would make the most sense. I don't really understand the argument that your kicker against your defense, because you're not technically scoring that many points, but you're not trying to play your defense because you're going to hold them to no points. You want to force turnovers in general. So anyway, that's sort of the way I would look at it. It only mattered to me on large buy-in, smaller field GPPs.
Okay. Yeah. So again, for me, the concept of the Showdown slate is far more interesting than the actual game. But I am glad that we did at least go over a couple of scripts for the game. But again, like, if you don't like my script, like if you don't like the Bears passing game, you could create totally different builds with what you like. Like if you think that that Dallas is going to run Chicago into the ground, you know what I mean? You could play Zeke and Dallas defense, and you know what I mean, and not play that much exposure from the Bears offense. But again, I actually think that there are only so many ways a game can go, right? Mm-hmm. So as long as you pick, you could even do multiple builds hedging against one thing for the other. But I wouldn't. Again, that would be my one, big caveat. Again, is just to make sure you don't cross the streams, so to speak. Make sure that you stay true to whatever script you come up with, and don't try to get too cute with that.
Who do you prefer at running back today between the two big guys, Cohen and Montgomery?
So to answer your question, it would be like the exact same thing. In other words, if I thought there would be more of a passing game type thing, you'd obviously want to go with Cohen. And that was one of the things I was thinking about when I was making this script, was whether I would include Cohen as one of my, quote, wide receivers. You know what I mean? Like, if I was going to go, include him as one of those guys I could put in the captain. And if I was going to go the Montgomery route, then, you would think that it would be more of a grinded out type game, or maybe the Bears even get a lead or whatever. I mean, in general, I think that Tariq Cohen is, more kind of fantasy friendly type guy, especially on DraftKings, where you get all those, those PPR points.
Especially if you're coming from behind, like you might get just a million targets later.
That too. But then on the other hand, like how popular is he going to be? You know what I mean? So so what you could do, like what you just said. So you said that when they're going to be coming from behind, so Tariq Cohen could be a really good run back if you play Dallas guys. You know what I mean? Like if you play Zeke and Cooper and Prescott and even Dallas D, right? And then you can run that back with Tariq Cohen, because that Dallas would be, if Dallas did have a big lead, they're all too willing to give up those little dump offs anyway.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And look, I mean, in terms of priority for tonight's slate specifically, I'll just throw out a few of my things. I mentioned Allen Robinson. I prefer Cohen to Montgomery because I believe the game script will lead more to the passing game for the Bears. If for no other, I think they're the worst team. I know they're playing at home, but I think that they might have to throw to catch it, keep up in this game. It's also an easy run back because I'm going to play Zeke in all of my lineups. Even if I was to throw a guy like Pollard in, I'd still be playing Zeke. I think fading Dak is kind of interesting. Play the run game and then run it back with the passing game, but I would prefer Cohen and Robinson followed by Weems and Miller. I think they're all good plays. And then don't forget about the tight ends. Also, that's something people aren't going to really look at for the Bears tonight. So might want to consider that as well.
Who was that guy again that scored the touchdown on Thanksgiving?
Can't even think of his name right now.
I have him in my lineup somewhere.
Yeah, you know who he is. It's this, but I don't have his name.
Orsted or something.
Yes.
I don't know, but maybe something like that. I don't know, but I have him in line somewhere because he is one of the pass catchers. Hey, speaking of tight ends, I don't know if this guy usually, I don't know if he's going to get ownership, but I definitely see routes where Blake Jarwin gets something going on. He gets targeted for some long passes every now and then, so I have him in there. Witten would be more of kind of the safer type tight end to kind of throw in, but I have no problem with Blake Jarwin also. That's what I like about these guys tonight is again, you say this all the time, and then someone else comes out there and does something, but you think you know where most of the action, and even the secondary action, is going to go.
But you never. That's the thing, is you get
know.
one guy, Olabasi Johnson comes in, or somebody else gets hurt or something. You never know. Like, I mean, that's what happened last week. That's the reason I mentioned it. But all right, man. Hey, it's good to do the showdown shows with you. We got some more videos coming up for you guys soon. We're going to be doing our NFL preview for the weekend. And let's keep breaking in the money. Let us know how you're doing. Thanks. Give us a thumbs up. For Sheets, I'm BobbyFi, and we are out of here.